Hey, we are live for another Travel Tip Tuesday here on my page, The Traveling Lucy. And today I'm really excited about this topic. I'm excited every week, and I say that every week, but I truly am. But today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is road tripping. And we're going to talk about how to plan a road trip effectively with none other than the Bethany Turner herself, who owns her own blog, Travel Without a Plane, which is such a cute little name. I love it. So thank you so much, Bethany, for coming on. Really excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Lucy. I appreciate it. And I don't even know if I can take credit for the name. I was in a travel blogger group webinar thing, and somebody was talking about how in COVID you have to travel without a plane, primarily by road trips. And I was like, wait a minute. That's what I do a lot. So I did that thanks to that girl.
Hey, it doesn't matter where the idea comes from as long as it comes from somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were discussing a little bit before, but I got back into writing this year. So I was formerly a magazine writer and editor, and now I work for a Fortune 500 beer company. I manage the DC market. So very different jobs. But in the pandemic, I've had a lot more time at home. I used to travel a ton for work, and obviously it's super festive in here. I've got 2 Christmas trees because it's just me and my cat. So
hey girl, I'm with you. I got 2 cats and my cat's been licking the tree all day. I'm like, it's fake. What are you licking?
She's on it all day. I don't know what it is, but I had some extra time. So I thought, why not create a travel blog in a pandemic? People can use that information.
Hey, it's so funny that you bring that up because the fact of that, I also started all of this during COVID, and it was funny because when my mom had found out that when I was telling her I was doing it and everything, she was like, who's gonna want to see anything with travel when they can't go anywhere? And I was like, excuse you, let me just follow my dream over here. But that's actually what ended up leading to this travel video, the whole Travel Tip Tuesday, because I was doing a road trip. I was doing a road trip to Tennessee in the middle of the night, and at 3 a.m., it dawned on me. I was like, huh, she said nobody wants to hear about travel tips or whatever right now. And I'm like, okay, well, but what are people thinking of? People are thinking about what is going to be like when I can travel again, and what they're going to be thinking about those steps when they come to fruition. So I was like, oh, let me come up with Travel Tip Tuesday. We can talk about travel and how things are gonna be, or whatever it might be. And now we're kind of out of that phase of COVID, but it's exciting to have this fun right now.
Yeah.
And hear from people like you about how things are and what their tips are, because everybody has different perspectives. But before we kind of go into that though, I want how did you when did you start traveling? When did your travel bug peak?
I took random family trips. My dad was very adventurous, so we did Costa Rica and Bahamas, but it was few and far between because my brother, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but as siblings, as kids, my brother could not go wrong. I feel we were not rewarded with trips very often. So I feel his adventurous lifestyle is in my genes. But it really wasn't until the last 3 to 4 years. I went to Iceland with a couple of my friends. We did 2 weeks abroad, and it was fantastic. Of course, did a road trip while we were there. Stayed in lots of Airbnbs, but I think also because of my work, and I used to live in North Carolina, and I worked for a craft brewery there, and I covered almost the whole state. At one point, I had the Outer Banks to Savannah, Georgia as my territory. So I covered a lot of ground. And so I learned, I had my go bag ready to go. I own 2 of every toiletries, so I can just run to the door if I need to. I got really good at that, and traveling on my own, dining alone, that's not a big deal to me. It's kind of funny to me when people are like, I can't believe you're comfortable eating alone. And I'm like, yeah, of course I am. It doesn't bother me at all. Let me get my glass of wine and a steak or some seafood. I do not care.
You're like,
So,
bye, I don't need you.
exactly. So yeah, I feel like that's really, really kind of spawned it. And I've done road trips in Iceland, in the United Kingdom. We went from London to Stonehenge to Brighton Beach and back. And so I feel confident now that I've driven on like the other side of the road.
Oh my gosh, that's a thing. That's like, it's actually more difficult than you think it would be, but then like once you get the hang of it, I mean, I think the roundabouts really is what makes it like thrown off.
It's the worst part. I
Honestly,
at the airport. So something that I'd love to do is like now that my grown other single friends have their own careers, they're all in different cities. So I'm in DC, I've got some in Chicago and Atlanta, and we'll like meet abroad. So I went to London with one of my friends who lives in Atlanta, and I was waiting for her plane to arrive, knowing we were going to have to go pick up this rental car and drive it. And I'm sitting there watching YouTube videos on these roundabouts. And I was like, honestly, I didn't even think about the fact that I was going to have to sit on the other side of the car to begin with. So it was a lot more than I bargained for, but actually a lot easier than I thought it would be.
well, and the fact that cars over there are majority of stick shift. So,
well,
so if you don't, did you have a stick shift car or was it automatic?
I grew up with one, but the one that I got as a rental was a manual, so we were okay with that.
Oh, okay. So then you guys were cool with that.
Automatic.
Automatic, yeah. Oh, so you guys got an automatic over there.
Yeah.
Those are like substantially more money over there though when you get the automatic ones because they're so like it's like an upgrade. It's like trying to get a convertible here.
You are right about that. My friend, I don't think she could drive stick shift. So this was like 2017, so I don't remember yet. It's fun. Maybe that can be your new pandemic project.
Yeah. Well, I did a road trip over in Ireland and Scotland. And luckily my best friend who I was traveling with, she knew how to drive stick, so she did a lot of the driving and I was the navigator because she can't read a map. So it was a good balance, but I rode a couple of times on the back roads or whatever, so it was fine. But
yeah. Definitely need a good navigator, that's for sure.
That is true, especially when you're on the other side of the road. Mm-hmm. So when you went to Iceland, was that your first time ever being abroad and then like going on that type of road trip?
As an adult, yes. So I went, my family, we did 12 days in Costa Rica. And so we stayed in San Jose and then went to Jaco Beach, which was like a really dicey drive in monsoon season. And I've heard that the roads are a lot better now, but I was like 16, so this was a long time ago. And then back to San Jose. So Iceland was my first trip abroad as an adult, like just me and my friends. And yeah, we did 2 weeks. I think it was like March, so it was too frozen to really do the northern part of the country, but we did like east to west of most of the southern portion, and it was fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I just want you to know that's like my next trip. Like that's number one in the top of my list is Iceland right now because I want to see the Northern Lights. Did you see the Northern Lights?
No. It was a little bit too cloudy everywhere that we were, and I think it's a little more difficult than you realize to be able to see it, but we did see them flying over Canada on the way there.
Okay.
Very subtly.
It's something.
Yeah.
I love that. So how many places have you actually done road trips to, if that's a countable number?
I was trying to think about it. So like I said, I did Iceland, the UK. I did Yosemite to Las Vegas, which was like we stopped, or Sacramento, Yosemite, Mount Whitney, Death Valley, Las Vegas. And then again, I did Vegas to Grand Canyon, Antelope Canyon. The longest one I've done was Wilmington, North Carolina to New Orleans. And that was a 10-day trip by way of the Gulf Coast. So instead of taking like all the interstates, we just went down like through Savannah, across the top of Florida, Apalachicola, and all around the Gulf. And so really I only spent like 2 or 3 nights in New Orleans, but stopped along the way, and it was a fantastic trip. Now the drive back, we did that.
Yeah, went straight through. You don't need to stop again. Yeah.
But it was really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've done a few road trips. I'm like down in Florida, so it's like it takes like 8 hours just for me to get out of Florida, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's like already like a huge majority of the day, but I try my best, and I've done like quite a bit of road trips up there. But New Orleans is gorgeous.
Yeah.
As well as the some of the best food I've ever had, like ever.
Alligator boudin, so good. Didn't know
No,
that I wanted that in my life, but now I want it all the time.
well, the charbroiled oysters too. Did you have those when you were over
Yeah,
there?
I get those a lot here too in DC.
Oh,
Maybe
well.
it's not the same, but we're big seafood around the Chesapeake Bay. Gotta have blue crabs, oysters.
That's true. We got a lot of seafood down here too. So, what do you think is the number one question that people have when it comes to road tripping? Like, what is there, like, what's the biggest fear that you see when you're doing your research and like when you're trying to help people?
I think just don't know how much people realize that they can do it themselves. I think for me, it comes second nature. I think so much of a trip, like the joy of a trip is in the anticipation. And so I might just, while I'm at home, like watching something on Netflix in the background, I'll start Googling like different attractions and things. And what I actually do is keep a Google Doc. So if I'm planning it for myself or if I'm planning it with friends so that they can also share and collaborate, I'll dump all of my ideas into this doc and then filter through as I get closer to the trip. So for instance, I did a trip from Dallas to San Antonio and I spent a few days like hiking throughout the Texas Hill Country. So I found a few different parks that were nearby, some a little more off the beaten path, and kind of planned my trip around that. So just collecting all of that information. And I think a lot of people are like, how do you figure out where to eat? How do you figure out where to stay? But literally I just Google, or I'll go to Instagram location, like search the search function for Instagram by location, see if there's a blogger that lives nearby who lives in that area or has like visited that area. There are a ton of, just like you and I are blogging about, there are a ton of people out there writing about their past road trip itineraries, hole in the wall places to eat. You can even use Google reviews or Yelp reviews. Something that I do if I'm, if my destination is set, but maybe I have some time to stop for lunch more than like getting fast food on a random exit, I'll see if there's a little town like just off the highway. If it's got a few cute cafes or something like that, you can usually just like zoom in on the map and see that there's like kind of a bustling downtown, a few streets, and try to find a restaurant there, something that's got a few good reviews, and it just adds to that experience, and makes it more of a road trip or more memorable than, listen.
No, absolutely.
Bojangles, when I'm down home in the South, I gotta get Bojangles because we don't really have it up here.
Well, and that's crazy too, because like there's so many places like, like White Castle, like we don't have that here in Florida or whatever it might be. I still haven't had it, but I'm just saying like that would be like if I was out there and I saw that. Actually, on my road trip out west that I took in September, I kept seeing A&W everywhere.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen an A&W? Like, I don't know. Like,
but I've not like
I saw it so much that I was like, I can't avoid this anymore. I was like, I need to try this, and I love root beer. It was amazing. Like, it was truly so good. So like literally like towards the end of my trip, I think it was like I was in Montana or going into Wyoming, which was like one of the last states before like I drove back to Florida. And like I was like, you know what, we're doing this. And I was already recording. I actually like made a whole video on like the experience. I haven't posted it yet though, so you guys can stay tuned for that. But it was so good. And I was just like, yeah. But like I totally get what you mean with the, a lot of times if you're zooming into Google Maps, there will be like the area will be tan if it's a like city center or something like that. So sometimes that can indicate if it's Google Maps. I don't know about iMaps or iPhone Maps, whatever.
It's virtually all the same. I mean, you can see a town on the map, and you can zoom in and see if it's just like some houses and a gas station on an exit, or if there's maybe a historic downtown area, maybe there's a cute little cafe on Main Street that you can go grab a good sandwich at and a coffee. Or I do the same thing for finding a local coffee shop. We did that frequently on our trip to New Orleans. Instead of stopping at a Starbucks, although I love Starbucks, instead of stopping there, go a little bit further into the exit, go support a local mom. We can certainly use it right now.
Absolutely. No, and I think that really does make those trips too, when you get to experience the actual culture of places. That's what I try to tell people when you go somewhere. It's like, yeah, go to the big city, whatever it might be, but like try and venture a little bit outside of that as well, and like see some of like what makes that place special for the people that live there.
100%. That's why I do road trips, because even abroad, it's easy enough for people to fly into Reykjavik, but you're not getting the true Icelandic experience if you're just staying in Reykjavik. They have a bar called the American Bar, which is hilarious and great, but it's like NFL football helmets and jerseys and like just, you know, draft beer. Or they have like the pub, which is like an English pub. They have a bar called the Lebowski Bar that is all dedicated to the Big Lebowski. And I had a White Russian with Cocoa Puffs in it, and it was amazing. But that's not all Iceland has. Yeah, so you want to get off the beaten path. You want to see those smaller towns. Stay in an Airbnb if you can. Chat with the locals. Something that I recommend is when you get into your destination, even if in your Google Doc you've got a beautiful itinerary laid out, which I tend to do, leave yourself some space. Go into a coffee shop, chat with a barista, or at dinner, you know, that first night, ask your waitress or ask your bartender, you know, where would you go? Because for me, when I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, the top 10 places on TripAdvisor were not at all restaurants that I would recommend visitors to go to. And I was a bartender, and they'd ask me, and I'm like, listen, you can go to Blue Water for a cocktail. The view on the Intercoastal Waterway is beautiful, but you don't actually want to eat there. You go across the coast, the waterway to Dockside, or maybe go back down into Rice Bowl Beach to Tower 7 for tacos. That's going to be a better experience. So I think TripAdvisor doesn't always give the best stuff, but it can give you a starting point.
Absolutely. And like getting to those starting points and everything, like I tell people that all the time, like ask a local at any point, no matter where you are, whether you're in another country or whether you're here in the US, like if you can find and grab a local and ask them where to go, like I don't know about you, like, oh, obviously I know about you because you just said exactly what I feel, but like everyone else watching out there, I don't know about them, but like if someone asks me a question like in my hometown, I am like so ready to like be like, yeah, no, this is where you need to go, here, here, and here. And like I'm excited. Like nobody's gonna be like, you're asking me where you should go. Like nobody's I feel like people are afraid to ask questions. People don't want to like feel like they're imposing on people or like, you know, being annoying or whatever it might be. But like asking, that's where you're gonna get those valuable experiences, because there's so many places, especially the bigger cities, where everyone's trying to be like those. There's going to be touristic places that like they're trying to be what everybody thinks they are, right? Like if you go to Paris, it's very like Paris is cool, it's beautiful, like definitely worth going there once in your life, but like it's not like the true France or whatever.
Right, it's not all of France, right?
Exactly.
It's like New York is not all of America, although New York is fantastic. There's a lot more to this country. And it's so weird to me, even having been out west, like growing up on the East Coast and even having been out west, still seeing on Instagram photos of like people's road trips in, you know, California, where I have physically driven. I still cannot believe that like this part of the US is all the same. It's wild.
Honestly, and I feel like especially here in the US, like we have this idea of like what these places look like. We're like, oh yeah, there's nothing in Idaho, there's nothing in Wyoming, like there's nothing in Kentucky. Girl, I just did this road trip and I was like, I was shocked the entire time. The like every turn I took on that road trip, I was like, what? Like what is this? Like
it's like they were lying to us growing up that like, Idaho is just a bunch of potatoes and there's nothing in Arkansas, but like there is
yeah,
a lot of beautiful land to be seen, and nobody knew. They were just like keeping us out, which
yeah, I think they were just trying to keep it to themselves. They like came up with a deal with Idaho. Idaho's like, we don't want people here.
Yeah, I know, like thanks to Instagram and the internet, I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are actually beautiful and nobody knows.
No, truly. And like, you know, it's funny because in the videos I did about Idaho, I was like, listen, if you watch any of my other videos, like, you know, you already love Idaho like I do. Like, because it's, I think I thought of Idaho like 4 different states. It felt like I was driving through 4 different states. But like, the thing is if you ride like fly into somewhere and you don't go anywhere, like let's say you fly into Denver, Colorado, and you, granted, there's plenty to see in Denver, Colorado. I love Denver. That's a beautiful fly-in. It really is. But if you don't go outside of Denver, like to all like the little spots or whatever it might be, or even going to Boulder, like the or Estes Park and stuff like that, then you're missing out on so much in Colorado. It's not just like skiing in Denver, like that's
right.
not.
And it's really not. It's not far at all. That was a trip I did last October, actually. So like a little over a year ago, I flew into Denver with my friend from Chicago, meeting another friend in the airport. And yeah, we stayed in a really cool Airbnb in like a I don't want to say like a hip neighborhood, but in a hip neighborhood of Denver, and went to a lot of really awesome places in the city. But we also spent some time driving out to Estes Park, to Rocky Mountain National Park, just exploring all around and being able to, rent a car for a couple days is not that bad. And really, really, really gives you a far better experience and far better view of the land. And so even though my Instagram handle is travel without a plane, I do still use a plane.
That was going to be the next question.
yeah, I do still use a plane, but I use the car when I get there. I've been spoiled because, like I said, I did travel a lot for work. And so we've had a lot of conferences in Vegas, and that's how I've had the opportunity to use that as a jumping off point. When I did that trip in Texas, we had a conference in Dallas. And so even though, sorry, Texans, I'm not like a huge fan of Dallas, I really, really loved my time driving through the hill country, and I loved the city of San Antonio. And if I had just gone to that conference and left, then I never would have known all of that. But I took some additional time. Again, luckily for me, I get people ask me a lot about budget travel, and I'm maybe not the best person for that, because I'm like, let's eat all the fancy foods, let's do everything. But I am able to utilize those work plane tickets. So think outside the box is basically what I'm saying. If you have a trip that you have to fly somewhere for, can you extend that a little bit and give yourself the opportunity to explore? And then I'll bookend it and I'll fly back out. I flew back out of San Antonio, or, you can drive back to Dallas and fly back out.
There's so many ways to go about it. And like you said, like there are more expensive ways to do it, and then there are cheaper ways to do it. Like you said, you stayed in a really cute Airbnb in Denver. I stayed in a really cute hostel in Denver. And which a lot of people don't know that there are hostels here in the US. And no, you don't die in hostels, for you guys that are watching, you don't die in them.
I still have not stayed in a hostel, but I've been really, really lucky finding amazing Airbnbs. And I think hotels are great in their own right, but you get a different experience in an Airbnb, and I'm sure get a different experience in a hostel as well.
Absolutely. And it's really about the type of travel that you're trying to do too. And like, I'm sure that obviously if you're meeting up with friends and everything like that, which is awesome, by the way, the fact that you coordinate with your friends to be like in the airport at the same time. I mean, I feel like a lot of people people probably
extra, but like somehow those flights just were, I think just living in places like Chicago, DC, and Atlanta help. There's just like more frequent flights.
That's true. Well, maybe not now, but yeah.
I haven't been on a flight since that was a wild thing. So my last like big trip was to Vegas in like the first week of March, and some coworkers and I drove out, did the Grand Canyon, Antelope Canyon, all of that. And the conference ended on a Wednesday. So everybody's travel day was Thursday, and that's when we went out. And then on Friday, we all got an email that there was a company-wide travel ban, like now in effect. They brought us all together for a conference, and then they were like, there's a pandemic, actually. We're all just finding out that is serious. So actually, no one's going to be traveling anymore. And so we were all like, what? Do we go? I mean, we were supposed to fly back through Vegas, which we did end up doing. But if we had known then what we know now, we would have just driven across country, like just told our boss, you know what, we're just going to be safe and drive, just taking that opportunity. And we all really wish we had, because then we all returned to our apartments in the cities to
literally be stuck there for a while.
yeah. But I have had a lot of opportunity to do some closer trips on the East Coast. I did Greenville, South Carolina for the 4th of July.
So
Yeah,
gorgeous.
I had never been and heard wonderful things about it. There's lots of fantastic hiking around Greenville.
And
And
waterfall in the city.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Downtown Greenville is beautiful. There's a lot of good dining. And I figured most people for the 4th, if they were traveling, would probably go to the beach. And so again, I met up with some friends from Atlanta safely. And we stayed in a few Airbnbs in Greenville and then did some hikes throughout. And it was a great experience. And then I did one solo to Stanton, Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley and found again another amazing Airbnb. A relaxing king bed that I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to get out of this, but I did a bunch of day hikes and shopping downtown and a lot of takeout. I think it's easy to still do some safe travel by car in the US. I think when people think of travel, or particularly like a travel Instagram, they think like these exotic locales, but you can really enjoy your own backyard. Something that's Harpers Ferry, West Virginia is like an hour from DC, and it is this amazing historic mountain river town. And like, so
Sign me up.
yeah, people don't even realize you can do these things, and it's like just search a little bit harder.
And I think that
reach out to Lucy. We can tell you.
let's go. I think that a lot of people have learned that too. With COVID, it's really forced people to, explore more of their own state or nearby countries, nearby cities and nearby states, because so many people have like been taking on that whole road trip aspect. But a lot of people, like, RV sales are out the gate. I don't know, whatever. They are through the roof. I was like, what is that term? RV sale.
Hi, Yanni.
Yeah, there is so many places to go visit. And so when people like are now like, okay, well, I can't go. I feel like a lot of people had trips planned to like other countries this year, and then they're all of a sudden like, oh, well, that sucks, I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'm like, well, first thing, I feel like if you plan something and it wasn't able to happen this year, then you learned a hard lesson, right? I feel like you shouldn't wait to go see these places that you want to go see, right? So many people are like, oh, next year, 12 years later, like never been there, And it's like now, you can take it the opportunities in a different way and just experience more of your surroundings. Go check out the US, like we talked about with those different states. There's so much to see.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a conversation I actually had prior to starting Travel Without a Plane on my personal Instagram. When I was in Stanton, Virginia, I was like a little wine tipsy, and I had gotten so many DMs from girls that were like, aren't you afraid to be traveling alone? Or I wish that I were brave to be traveling alone. And so finally, I just like recorded, and eventually I'll probably put it on Travel Without a Plane. But I was like, guys, if I didn't go alone, I would never go. And that's unacceptable to me. And I love my friends with kids. I've got like I said, a lot of my single friends are in different cities. I can wait on it to be an opportunity for us to all go together. We do try to have girls' weekends fairly frequently, but if I sit around and wait on other people to be available, I'm going to miss out on those experiences myself. So
absolutely. No, I've had that conversation before too, because I had someone on before, Christina, Christine, why am I saying Christina? She said, we did like the whole fear of travel and like debunking that, because truly so many people are afraid of traveling alone. But I feel like it's one of those things, like once you do it once, you never go back. Like you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about like what you want to do, because when you're traveling with other people, like I love traveling with my friends too, like don't get me wrong either. But when you travel alone, you get to like learn more about like what you actually want to do, because you're the only person to answer to. You're not like, hey, what what do you want to do, Bethany?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then when someone tells you like, oh well, you know what they want to do, and then like you guys don't agree, and then like someone feels bad, like, and it's like, you know, there's just not that that's a bad thing, but just like when you're like, hey, like Lucy, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, you know, you're talking to yourself, you're like, okay, nobody's stopping me.
Yeah.
There's like a power that comes with it, and I feel like if people just broke through and just tried, then they would like really experience.
Road trips are a really good gateway to that. Like the one that I did to Shenandoah was maybe max like 2.5, 3 hours away. So I wasn't like investing in too much, like it wasn't that scary, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of explore on my own. And that's like a way for someone to put their toe in the water, you know?
Absolutely. No, and yeah, it's a great experience to be able to have. So I recommend it to anybody. So when you're traveling, is there, oh, you know, actually one thing I wanted to bring up that you had kind of mentioned earlier, but we segued into another way, with weekend trips.
Yeah.
Weekend trips are very doable, and you can very much do them with a plane and a road trip. You know, like I've done many weekend trips, 4-day weekends. Like if you have a holiday weekend or something like that, like if your job gives you holidays off, I know that there's not everybody has that opportunity, but even if you're able to, like, you have normally Friday and Saturday or Saturday and Sunday off, and you can take Friday off, you could have a 3-day weekend, maybe make it a 4-day weekend by only taking 2 days off. Yeah. That's like a really great way to like get out there and see something, because I feel like a lot of people feel you can't see a lot in a short amount of time like that.
That's why the Google Doc is great. So the way that I handle that is I love to head out the night before. When I've flown abroad, I typically do a red eye. So I wake up and I'm not tired that day because I've just got like all the adrenaline of being here. So I don't like I'm able to work that day and then leave. It's not for everybody, but it's something that I do. And that helps me maximize my time. So I wake up in my destination the next day, or even, you know, when I drove to Greenville, that was a pretty long drive, but you know, I was able to get there, have some dinner. I think I actually did that over the course of a day, but I got there for dinner and then again woke up the next day ready to go, and I had my plan out. So the Google Doc is great for building an itinerary, but just being mindful of the type of traveler that you are. So the way I build it out, and I'll eventually get around to blogging like how I do this, but is it'll say like arrival time if I'm flying, or when I'm, you know, if I'm driving, when I'm getting in, and then each day is lined out, and I try to take into account weather. So if there's a hike that I definitely want to do, I have to do that hike. If it's going to be raining all but one day, that hike has to happen on the day where it's not going to be crappy out. So you have to take that into consideration and kind of like do those puzzle pieces. And then if there's a, you know, a museum you want to go to and a nicer restaurant, maybe you can pair those together rather than doing like a major hike. Maybe that day you have pizza that night or something, because it's just like you're gonna be a little knocked out that day. But if you go to a museum, you'll be more willing to like put yourself together and go out to dinner. And then leaving yourself some breaks, some free time to either go back and take a nap if you're that type of person, or, you know, like we said, chatting up the baristas or the bartenders, where should you go? You know, throw in some of their recommendations, or just wander around. You know, if you like we said, just zoom in on the map near where you are and say like, hey, you know what, there's a shopping center with like a coffee shop and some like little boutiques that might be cool to check out, or, you know, maybe there's some sort of class online. I've seen a lot of people have been doing like they'll travel to a place and do like a cooking class or something like live. I guess it's probably not happening now, but there's like an endless amount of things that you can do. All you have to do is take the time to look. And like we said, there's so much fun in the anticipation. So help yourself enjoy that trip more by planning it out and looking for things that you could be doing. I feel like people are like, oh, okay, we go to Atlanta, we have to, you know, go to the Georgia Aquarium and go to the Coca-Cola factory, and like these are the things that we have to do because they're like specific touristy things, but maybe not. Maybe there's some stuff off the beaten path that you just have to go search for.
And I love that you bring that up too, because I feel like that's so important obviously you're very much a planner and you like to map it all out, which is good.
My type A friend like plans all our trips, and I'm like, I don't really think I'm type A. I just want to see and do the things, so I make sure that I get them in, and then that frees me up to like enjoy the trip and not have to think about, oh, what are we going to do next, because it's like already there. All the information is there for me on my little Google app.
And that's what I was going to say too, is that like, it's so important to schedule that, or maybe not schedule, but to like have free time when you're traveling. Like, I don't think people really understand that, especially here in America. Like, I feel like Americans, when we go on trips, we're like, because we don't get much vacation time, we're just like, so go, go, go. We're like, we got to do this.
Given the opportunity, like if I'll travel alone, I will go, 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 and I'll just sleep at night. But if I'm traveling with my friends, I know I have to schedule in some downtime, because they're just like, we don't.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. But the thing is when I'm go, 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 like there are things that I'm like go, go, go about, and like in the sense of like I'll have same thing, like a list that I'm going to look at and such like that, like things that I could be interested in doing, but like ultimately for me at least, when I go somewhere, I try to keep it open, because when I get there, I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. Like, do I want to go to a museum today? I don't even know what I want to eat today, let alone a month from now.
Yeah,
like,
sure. And when I say like I plan it out, it's not set in stone at all.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there is, a list of places for breakfast. There is a list of places for lunch, depending on what you're in the mood for that day. We can't predict how we're going to feel when we get someplace. We might have a stomach ache, or we might, be ravenous. But if you had everything like set in stone, maybe people like to do it that way, but it's giving yourself some options and knowing what those options are, so that the trip itself is stress-free.
Absolutely. No, and that's what I was going to applaud you on, is like, I feel like there are a lot of people that do that, like strict, this is what we're going to do. Like 11 a.m. we're going to be here, 12 we're doing this, 1 we're doing this. But I like that you have a very like, you have a list of things that you can do and go to. And I think that that's valuable, like, so that you can decide when you're there, like what you're going to do. I think that it's hard for sometimes people to go somewhere without a plan, or without something that's like gonna kind of like help them, especially if they're with multiple people. But I don't know, like I've done trips where I've kind of just like gone, and I will like, let's say you're going somewhere in a few months, and you start to like think of, like, you do a little bit of research, and like you write some places down, or if you're browsing Instagram and then you see something. I actually have a book of like all the different states, every state. I want to go to every state at some point, so I have a book. Every time I see something cool or somewhere, or whatever it might be, or something that someone said they had a good experience, like I write it in my book. Like,
that's a really good
idea, right? Travel books, travel journals are so important, in my opinion.
I just found out about Forrest Gump Point today. It's like between Arizona and Utah, I think, on the highway, and it's like this iconic scene from when he's running in the movie. And I've seen it on Instagram, but I didn't realize I was actually so close to it when I was in the desert in March. And my friends and I probably would have loved to like go there and take that like iconic highway in the desert photo. That's like what I wanted. And I don't feel, I mean, we just
darn, you'll just have to go back.
I know, but like, yeah, if I had known then, or if I had a notebook to write it all down, that'd be a great idea. Could have thrown it in my Google Doc.
There you go. I mean, just having like those, like little lists of different places, because I mean, I run into that all the time, like on Instagram, and just like figuring out like where I want to go, or asking, or I'm talking to someone, like, because travel comes up a lot, like when you're talking to other people, and like, that's what I love about talking to other people on this platform too, is that like everyone's been somewhere different, right? Like it's everybody's had a different experience. Or if you ask someone's opinion about where to go, like they're almost always going to want to tell you like where they've experienced and what they've got to experience. And especially because travel is such like I don't want to say leisure thing, but like it's a thing that people enjoy. Like I feel like there's not many people like that don't like traveling, like that are like completely against it and like won't ever go unless there's like a fear there. But like the people who actually go out there and travel, like it's something that they really like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a personal, like, subjective experience, and of course they want to be talking to. I mean, here we are talking there. But
Yeah. So
yeah, but that's how I go about it. I do the Google Doc. I kind of do the same thing when I'm picking. I like almost primarily stay at Airbnbs. But I'll like what I did for my trip in Stanton was I was flexible on my dates and I was flexible on my location. I knew that I kind of wanted to be near Shenandoah National Park, but it didn't really matter where in Virginia I was. So I had like I don't know if you go on Airbnb and you search, they actually have a function now where you can put in your like ideal dates and then you can select like plus or minus 1 day, plus or minus 3 days, or plus or minus 7 days. And I knew that August would be like a slower time frame for work. So I was like, maybe this will open up a place that's booked on Sunday but not on Saturday or something. So that opened up that field. And then I used the map function to search various locations like Stanton was where I ended up, but any different little towns, and then just finding the perfect Airbnb from there. And I'll make a wish list in Airbnb of like, saved locales for this Shenandoah trip, and then put like my top 3 maybe in the Google Doc. And then when I'm ready to pull the trigger, I can go back in and sort through.
Absolutely. And look, it looks like one of our viewers actually said that they drove through the tunnels. They filmed the chase scene in the dark night because the Uber driver brought it up.
What?
So that's super cool.
I need to rewatch that movie.
But just like, and they said that they geeked hard up, out hardcore to that. But like, it's like experiencing that, like just even asking your Uber driver. That's a great one too.
When I first moved to DC, there is like we're known for the Ethiopian culture that is surrounding the city, and there's a lot of great Ethiopian restaurants. And one of my Uber drivers was Ethiopian, and he was just talking about it. And he, first of all, showed me when we were at stoplights, showed me some like really beautiful photos of Ethiopia that I had no idea about. And then I asked him, okay, where would you eat? Because there's so many different options. Like, what's like this tastes like home to me? And he threw out a few different ones, and now I've had Ethiopian food, and it's just like striking up conversations with different people. Although it seems a little like weird these days. Everybody does everything digitally, but you can certainly.
Whatever. You bring up a good point. And I just thought of something like, okay, let's say you're uncomfortable with asking someone in person, because I feel, and I don't really agree with this, because I think you should be comfortable with talking to other people. Like technology is probably taking away that personal experience that you get with people in person. But technology is so useful in the sense of we met on social media. Like a lot of the people, so it's so funny, like in my normal life when I'm talking to people like in my job, they're like, where do you find all your guests like that come on? I'm like, social media. Like it's crazy how like connected you can be with other people. And if you have questions, you brought up earlier about finding Instagrammers or people who have traveled somewhere like based on the location, you can send them a message. If they're active on their Instagram, highly likely that they're going to respond to you. So that's like
they might have a blog post exactly for that, or a YouTube video that they can send direct to you, and you'll have this whole plethora of information that you never knew existed.
Absolutely. And then you can kind of take away from the whole like maybe being nervous. Like I feel like a lot more people are comfortable with asking a question online, or even commenting on someone's picture and being like, oh, like people are always again happy to share their experiences. So if someone's like afraid of like doing that like per se in person, like you can do it online too. Like it's never
another
lost.
Site that I should definitely mention is Road Trippers. Are you familiar with Road Trippers?
Ooh, I don't think I am.
So they have a website. They also have an app. I haven't used the app. I like strictly use Waze. I have to use it because like in DC our roads turn different directions depending on the hour. Like there's a lot of, you never know when there's road construction or like a presidential motorcade. There's just like all sorts of stuff. So I always use Waze, but I want to try the Road Trippers app. But the site, they actually have, you can plan a road trip online. And I guess if you use the app, you could like collaborate with your friends. They have all sorts of like points of interest. So like the world's largest ball of yarn, if you for some reason want to see that. Things like that, you know, or like a museum or like real points of interest, but and like where to eat, accommodations. You can add on like all these different stops. That's a great way to find really unique pit stops. You know, so maybe you have to drive to Alabama to see your grandma, but maybe along the way you can see like the world's largest frying pan. It's on Road Trippers.
That's cool.
They've got that, but they've also got guides for specific road trips. So some of the iconic ones that I've done, like Vegas to Grand Canyon, or some of the, or you know, Fort Lauderdale to Key West. So that really great highway. But you can find out all sorts of information on Road Trippers. So the info is out there. The internet has some fantastic things, not just cat videos. So
I mean, I like those too. But yeah.
They're fantastic. Been watching them for like at least 12 years, probably. But no, out there, you have to take the time and not be afraid to ask people. Yeah, that's the thing that I've gotten a lot. They're like, "How do you know where to go?" And it's like, I just look it up, and then I write it down.
Easy. People will even like even people who ask directions to get somewhere, which I get asking for directions, but like you literally have Google. Like, what are you,
like I'm confused.
Yeah, like, so it's just, I think that, you know, I get it from maybe like the older generations that are used to, you know, because what, 20 years ago, I guess it's like 25, 30 years ago. I mean, even 20 years ago, technology was just not what it is today, right?
Oh, I used to have to print out the MapQuest directions. Like, that was the thing I did.
When my dad was older, like he would have, you know, he was 50 when he had me. So like he was older, and I remember when we took so many road trips to Pennsylvania, like from Florida. So it was like a long road trip, and he'd be like, "Okay, this is how you read a map." Like I feel like not many people have that experience, because it's like a lot of people, if they're reading like an actual map, they don't know how to read it.
Maybe that was where my traveling experience really started, because I remember driving from North Carolina to Delaware. My family's originally from Delaware, and I was like 7 years old with my mom, like directing her in this map. So maybe it's just definitely in my genes. I don't know.
Well, and I think that those experiences, you know, really add to it. I know that I had those experiences, but in the last 4 years is really when I've gotten like the travel bug. And I feel like so many people, I think, like say like, "Oh, well, you know, like how do you get to go on all these trips, and how do you do this and how do you do that?" But it's like really just about prioritizing it. Like if you care enough about something, like you're going to make time for it, no matter what that is. Like if you care about something, you're going to make time for it. And travel matters to me. Like I want to go and see new places. Like that's something that is a hobby and a passion of mine. So I'm going to make time for it. So I think that a lot of people
wake up early for.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I have been known to get up at 3 a.m.
No, exactly. Like, and you know, those red-eye trips, like sleep is very important to me too. So
yeah, I'm just trying to maximize the time. But you're absolutely right that you can throw it into a weekend if you fly on a Friday night, or even if you don't fly, if you just do a kind of staycation, go a couple hours outside of your city, I guarantee you there's something really cool to be found.
Absolutely. And you know, even I feel like where I'm at is like a very special case, because I'm like 8 hours into Florida, but so many other people.
Florida is another story. We're not talking about Florida.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. Like everyone else, like every other state is pretty much like very close to another state. Like very close.
That's what? Cool. So you've got Disney World.
That's all right. It's cool. It takes 12 years to get through Disney World too. So
that is true. That is true.
But you know, it's like, you know, people should be utilizing that more, or even just exploring their state. And you know, it's really just, I think, a really cool experience. I think that you just got to do it once. Once you do it once, you'll you'll figure it out. Like it's just figuring it out along the
It's
way.
literally just pulling the trigger. It's saying if I didn't go alone, I would never do this. Or if I didn't ask for, literally, I've had friends from high school who have reached out and been like, you know what, I see you traveling. I don't really feel like I have anyone to go with. Would you want to? And I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it, girl. Like, sign me up. I'm always down.
Absolutely, you know, and I think, you know, as you get older and everything, it's really harder. It becomes harder and harder to be able to plan with other people. Like you get kids, you get a husband, you get, you know, like, and trying to get so many people to coordinate, and also the fact that like when you're traveling with someone else, like especially if it's a long trip, you really have to make sure that you and that person are good. Like you can love them and be able to hang out with them for like 1 or 2 days, but like if you're there, like if you're with them
You
for like
gotta
a
make
week,
sure that like you can handle traffic together, or like that is a test of a relationship, is traveling together, friendship or otherwise,
yeah,
traveling together, you know.
and
Do you like,
navigating just
you know,
everything.
lining up, is this type of person who's going to want to take a nap? Am I okay? When I was in London, I love my friend dearly, but she was very tired and it was my 30th birthday. So sorry, mom and dad, but I went out in London by myself a couple
Yeah.
nights. Well, she stayed back and slept, but then she was raring to go the next day, and so was I, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy, I guess.
No, I'm the same way. I've done that. I've gone with friends and I'm like, okay, do you want to come or not? No? Okay, bye. I'm still
Yeah,
going.
I'm still going. I definitely did not fly all the way here to hang out in the hotel room, although lovely.
Exactly. And you know, and having someone who understands that as well. Like, you know, don't yeah, that's a whole other thing. We don't even need to go into that.
Another travel tip Tuesday.
Yeah, another travel tip Tuesday.
Travel buddy.
So yeah, I know. I need someone who's like gonna act like they're on crack and just be ready for everything.
Yes, yeah. Down
Oh
for
man,
whatever. That's what we need.
for real. So are there any other tips that you can think of that you really want to like throw out there for everyone?
I know we joked that I'm not really like a budget traveler. Again, because I also like use my work flights sometimes. But something that I like to do, like when I went to Virginia, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like the Packet cooler. The brand is literally called Packet. They are freezer bags that I keep obviously in my freezer. I don't know why I said it like that. They're in my freezer, and I can pack lunches, deli snack boxes. So I have like the if you get like a bento box, or like reusable glass bowl or anything like that, you can roll up like deli turkey, cheese, whatever. I'll bring my wine with me if I want in this freezer bag. I've got all sorts of like little teas and coffees and things that you can take with you if you're staying in a hotel, Airbnb, or I assume in a hostel. You'll be able to eat some snacks too.
Yeah.
So you can bring your groceries with you ahead of time, or get to a destination, hit the grocery store. That's another way to stay healthy while traveling. If you don't necessarily want to hit fast food, but there's a Harris Teeter or Food Lion or Publix if you're in Florida, you know, whatever where you are, you can stop into the grocery store and get a healthier snack box for lunch, and like some random veggies and fruits and things like that. So the freezer bags are where it's at. I really love those because when I get to my destination, hotel or Airbnb, I'm able to throw it in the freezer. Just don't forget to grab it out of the freezer. I always take a water bottle with me to refill. Airports now all the time have the actual water bottle fillers. Stay hydrated, everybody. That's a thing. That's a life tip, not just a travel tip. Yeah, and I had a friend ask me, like, you know, how do you pick where to go to the bathroom when you're on a road trip? And it's actually, I guess, a really good question, because listen, I know of people who have like gone down an exit where it said there's going to be a bathroom, and then now suddenly they're on this exit for like another 2 miles because the town that it's referencing is like not on the exit. This is another great moment for zooming in on the map. And you can see, try to time it with like with like a gas station stop, or we're going to stop for lunch. But if you can't, you know, pay attention to the rest area signs. Oh my gosh, when they're like not another rest area for 74 miles. you might want to zoom out on the map and make sure that there are gas stations along the way. Like,
Yeah.
just plan ahead and say, I might want to eat in 3 hours. So this is about where I'll be, and see what your options are there. And oh my gosh, if you're just getting gas, please make sure that it's an on and off exit. Like, whoo. Yeah, Yanni said that's a good question. On and off exits, 100%. Don't find yourself driving in the middle of nowhere when you're on a timeline and when it's not important to you. However, if you want to drive a couple miles to a cute town and go to a cafe, then please do so.
Absolutely. No, and I think that you gave some really, that, I guess that is something that I don't think about. Like, I'm one of those people that, like, there are definitely people that, like, will need to go to the bathroom, like, every hour on the hour. Like, that's not me.
You need an on and off exit if you're that person.
Exactly.
We're not going to 7 times for you.
Gas station, rest stops. I mean, yeah, going to eat food, because you're going to have to eat food at some point, like, wherever it might be. So I think that those are all very good observations of that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but that's why I've definitely been able to do some trips where I don't stop at all. If I can make it without eating gas and I've got my packet with my snacks and my lunch, then I'll just run on through. But I always have to have a coffee, so I will start from the get-go with the coffee.
I like that. And then so have you ever done camping? Like,
not in so long, and it is literally it's on my list of things that I definitely wanted to do this summer and just didn't get around to, and I hope to when it warms back up near here again. We used to be camping on the beach a lot when I was a kid, and I have not done true mountain camping. Fun fact, this is probably TMI, but when I was a Girl Scout, we went camping, and I peed my pants a couple times because I was too afraid to use the bathrooms there. We had legitimate bathrooms in this campground, but there were spiders and they were creeping me out. So I just peed my pants instead. I don't know. It was very small, but no.
No, that's all right. We've all been there. I was referencing to the fact that I was also a Girl Scout, so
now I'm like, porta potties aren't ideal, but I'll use them. And meanwhile, back then I was so prissy that I was like, I don't want to be near this spider. But no, I have not been camping in a very long time. I have for my like hiking pack, I have a hammock from Eno Hammocks, which is great because it rolls up into a little ball. Yeah. You can hang it between trees. That's super fun to take with you. And my friend she takes like a sleeping pad and just sleeps in her hammock, not even in the tent. I really want to do that. I just haven't done it yet, so stay tuned.
That's smart. I didn't think about putting I've got a sleeping pad and a hammock and a tent. And
a bug net. I even got a bug net. I have all these things ready to go, and I haven't done it yet.
Well, what I was gonna say is that there's actually, on the budget side, for those people who are watching and they want to be on a budget, there's a thing called like freecampsites.org or something like that. Like, if you Google free campsites, you can find free campsites all along the US from this map. And so you can find, like, you can see the reviews on there of those free campsites. So that's an opportunity as well. Like, if you're road tripping and you're kind of planning out where you're going to be if you're camping. And I think that that's what's really nice about like road tripping as well, minus like, or rather than going on a plane, because when you go on a plane, like, you're limited on what you can bring on. Right. You know, if you have your carry-on, you've got like to check a bag, you've got to wait, whatever it might be, you've got to be careful what's in there. So when you're in a car, you can fill up the trunk and be ready to go. So I think that that's,
no, for sure. I love road trips for that. Christine makes fun of me because she's like, you take more than carry-on. I'm like, girl, I do road trips. I can take whatever I want. Like, if I'm going to go hiking, my pack is in there. Like, I don't know what I'm going to want to do. I'm on a road trip. I can do whatever I want. So I take all my stuff. But gosh, there was a point I was going to make to that. I forgot. But for camping, yeah. Oh, that's the other thing. There's like a couple options. You can either plan where you're going to stay ahead, or when I did that trip from North Carolina to New Orleans, I knew where I was staying in New Orleans, but I would literally wake up in the hotel room I was in and then be like, this sounds like an hour or two away. Let's just book a hotel there tonight on Expedia. And that's where we'll go today. So that trip was completely unplanned. So there's all sorts of ways you can do it.
Absolutely. And we actually have a question. Yoni, am I saying that right, Yoni? Yeah. wants to know, do you take energy drinks with you? You said coffee. I don't know if this is
a coffee girl through and through. And so I'm not huge on like Red Bull or anything like that. So you could put it in your packet. It would stay cold. But I typically like to start, there's like a Starbucks near my house, so I'll do that. Or like I said, try to stay, if I do the easy on and off exit, grab a coffee where you're going, where you have to pull over, or if you can find a local coffee shop, that's always ideal because that adds like an extra special touch to your trip. So
yeah.
That's like my thing. Like a lot of people, they want to go to breweries in their destination. I'm like, where's that coffee shop? What's that like special latte I'm going to get in the morning? Like, I don't know what it is about them, but they're just so cozy and
Absolutely. No. And I love going to try out new coffee shops too when I'm on the road. Like, and one thing is like, if you're road tripping throughout the night, like if you're one of those people, like, and some people are, some people can drive at night, some people can't. I know that it does mess with my eyes sometimes, but I love driving at night because I want to, again, like you said, be there in the morning or whatever it might be.
yeah,
like, I will avoid like having to like waste my day. Like I'll, cut sleep to be able to see places.
From like DC to North Carolina, but if I'm driving somewhere that I've never been, like we're going through beautiful Idaho, as we've discussed.
That's true.
I want to drive during the day so that I can see the land and explore it. But if we're going through like the middle of nowhere or on an interstate, then like.
Well, I guess that's more pertinent to me because I'm in Florida and I've seen the 8 hours of Florida. Like, I don't want to see the palm trees anymore. Get me out of here. Mm-hmm. That's funny. Yeah, no, but one of the things that I did when I did a trip from here to Pennsylvania, because my brother used to live in Pennsylvania, when we were on the way back, sometimes like if you are one of those people that like have to pee a lot or whatever it might be, and you don't want to be drinking coffee all the time because you'll literally explode. Like you can't find a bathroom, right? If that's one of your worries, you can also get like caffeine pills or something like that. Like obviously don't take too many of them, like they're strong, but like that's one thing that I ended up getting to help with like going through the night or whatever it might be. Like obviously don't abuse the caffeine pills.
Yeah.
Like it's a way to get your coffee without like drinking liquids. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that could be an idea as well.
Like in a sketchy area, you don't want to stop and use the bathroom. There might not be a quick on-off exit.
There you go. There you go. We actually have another question. Sylvia, okay, said, if you could road trip anywhere and the money wasn't an issue, where would you want to go?
That's a good question. Everywhere. So,
same.
I was actually, I don't know if this would be doable. I'm sure it would. They have cars, but like prior to the pandemic, I was looking at doing Croatia, and I was planning to fly into somewhere else in Europe. It was not set in stone, and take a train, which I thought would be really cool. But I think a road trip through Europe could be really interesting. But I think there's just something like magical about the train too. Yeah. So I think for me, if money weren't an issue, it would just be. I think the problem would be time. If time weren't an issue, I would love to do a like cross country and back trip.
Here in the U.S. or in
the U.S.?
In the U.S. Okay.
Yeah, because I've done so much of the Southeast, and I've done like tiny pieces of out West and like a little bit in the Midwest, but never cross country. And I think I would want like a ton of time to see like all of it. Like I would want like at least a month.
Yeah.
If I take a really long time ago, I love my career, unfortunately. Vacations, so it's a little tough. But I would love to do that and stop. I would like to see the world's biggest ball of yarn. I don't know. To see all this random things that's on road. Actually, I don't know about that probably. But if it was there and it was right on the road, I would stop for sure.
Well, I think that like those things that you find like along the road, like when I was in Idaho, I was in the like literally it was desert. There was nothing. And I'm driving down this highway and all of a sudden I see this huge sign that says cave. It's like
just cave.
just cave. It just said, it's literally like, I have one of my videos on my channel is about it. It's like cave, like huge, like behind, I'm like, I pass it and I'm like, I think there's a cave there. So I turn around and go back to it. And there's this big sign and it says, drive 1.5 miles that way off of the highway. And there's the Smithsonian, they call it what they call the Smithsonian of the Desert here in Idaho, Shoshone, Mammoth Museum, whatever craziness. So I'm like, okay. And again, with the whole like flexible plans, I didn't, really have a specific like time frame that I needed to be somewhere. I was kind of just driving. I was like, I'm trying to get to the hot springs whenever I get there. Like,
yeah.
So I was like, I took a detour, even though it was actually first, it was sketchy. So I had gone to Google and I had zoomed in and I was like, look at the reviews. Okay, some people didn't die. So and then I went and it was really cool. It was like just this random cave in the middle of nowhere, but like you wouldn't find that if you weren't like driving, if you weren't on those road trips.
Exactly. That's exactly why I love road trips, because there's so much to see. I love even just like experiencing small towns, like driving through small towns. And there have been so many times that I'm like, what do the people do here? Although my friend visited DC recently and she was like, what do the people who live here do? And I'm like, well, I think they're all consultants and government. I sell beer, so I have like no business being here. I don't know. But
what do you mean? People here everywhere.
But I'm not like a politician. But I'm like, I always wonder, like, is everybody just like a teacher and a firefighter? Like, what are they? That's a very, very like dumb question. But I love wondering about like their day-to-day lives, like in this area. And I don't know. I just like seeing like the different houses and just the different ways that people live their lives across the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that it's different wherever you are, like, because if you're in Kansas, like, there's gonna be more agriculture or whatever it might be, like, and I think that the lifestyles are a lot different. Like when I had a friend who had property up in Idaho and her sister was there. So I was able to actually stay part of my road trip up there. And, when I stayed with them for one night, like when I was driving through and everything and exploring Idaho, like, I just know she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get up for a run. I'm going to do a hike in the morning. Like, it was just like her natural daily routine to like go and do a hike in the mountains. Like, I'm like,
that's what I want for my life. Why am I in
same?
I need my job to move me to Denver.
That's what I'm saying. Like, for people to just be like, yeah, I'm just going to go for a quick hike in the morning and then like go to work. And then I'm just like, that's a thing. Like,
that's a thing in Florida.
No, don't remind me.
I mean, it's supposed to be very flat.
No, it's very hot. It's not. That's a whole nother. There's the beach.
You can come up here for snow hikes. We'll have them very shortly.
Literally, let's go. I'm ready.
That was honestly, something I really wanted to do since I was in North Carolina and I did work across a lot of the Southeast. Moving up here this year, I wanted to explore a lot of the Northeast, but I felt like, and I planned to do that by car, and I could still do it, but I feel like a lot of what I would see wouldn't be the same experience. Yeah. In the time right now. So I think probably people have a lot of those worries of like, is it going to be fun or is it going to be worth it? I think the key is just researching to like, what is your destination like? How are they handling COVID? Respecting their regulations. The Northeast was just hit really hard in the time that I wanted to go. And then it felt weird, but Virginia felt really safe. So making sure you're doing what you're comfortable. It all comes back to research, looking things up. But maybe one day I'll be able to truly experience that. I want to do like that's another one. Like I just need a lot of time. I want to see everything at a leisurely pace.
I hear you. No, I hear you. Actually, me and my best friend planned a road trip just a couple of weeks ago for hopefully next summer, depending on like what everything is going on over there, because she lives in Denmark. So we're planning to do that cross-country road trip from Florida to California, but we're going to do it in like 2 weeks because I was like, it would have to be 2 weeks.
You can still definitely do it. I just personally want a lot more time. But I feel like 2 weeks is a good amount of time. I feel like that's like a typical. Yeah. You see people do it in like a week to 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I think that it could be done like, because, before we've done like trips where it's like, like maybe a week, or weeks kind of like the longest or whatever. So when we were talking, we're like, yeah, it's definitely gonna have to be 2 weeks at the minimum. So
Yeah.
that'll be cool to see. But that's cool that you have that dream of doing. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe you'll get to do that. You know?
One day, man, really, if we had known in March what we know now, we would have driven across country from Arizona, and it would have been fantastic.
It would have been. And you would have had a good excuse. Like, I'm sorry.
Now we go back to our flight. And crazy story, this is probably why I need to travel more often without a plane, because I actually left my work phone at the airport when we flew back. Thankfully, one of my coworkers had not
left yet.
So he ran to the other concourse, grabbed it for me, and then had to like overnight it to me, because otherwise it was going to be like a big fiasco trying to do that with the airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, well, my phone's just not going to be there. Sorry, guys.
Better than leaving it on the top of your car.
That's true. I haven't done that I know of. Anything that I've left on the top of my car, I didn't need, apparently, because I didn't.
Because you didn't remember.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Bring all the things.
Yes, that's true. That is true. Well, so how can people reach you best, Bethany? If they want more, if they have more questions, or we've got your blog and everything.
This has been so fun. You guys can reach me probably best on Instagram at Travel Without a Plane. I'm fairly active. DM me, I will answer. And then you can find me on my blog at www.travelwithoutaplane.com. Right there. That's so cool. And then you can also email me if you like, which I am less active on that because I'm on email all day for work. But it's travelwithoutaplane@gmail.com. But like I said, Instagram's probably the best. And this is fantastic because this was my last work day. I'm off the rest of the week. My birthday is actually on Friday, so
happy early birthday.
Yeah. So I'm going to spend a lot of time. Well, that's the plan. I'm going to spend a lot of time on the blog the rest of this week and try to get some more content churned out. So there is on the blog currently how to find an Airbnb. So I walk you through all the filter steps to find your best spot. There's a lot of gift guides and stuff on there right now as well, because 'tis the season. And then obviously we have all of our Christmas stuff in the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so more to come. I'll definitely eventually get around to putting my itineraries up there, and people can kind of see oh, what did she do when she went on this trip? And maybe you'll find that magic gem that you didn't know about.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And I love that you have a blog and that you started it during COVID with me.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
There's plenty of people that, when you get the time, you get to, invest a little bit more in your passions and what you want to do, and help inspire other people to travel. That's why I really started it, because I had so many people asking me questions and wanting to know more. And it's really just about inspiring other people to get out there and see the world, see what there is, and knowing that it's not as difficult as I think a lot of people make it.
Yeah, and I felt like I had something to offer with COVID. You can feel a little safer traveling by car, but definitely useful, and hopefully people get over their fears and they go ahead and just book that trip and take that drive.
Absolutely. So there is one last question that I ask every person who comes onto my shows. That I would like you to answer. So, how has travel changed and impacted you?
Ooh, lofty. Probably a lot of ways, right? Well, I think truthfully, it probably comes down a lot to building that confidence. That same experience where I was, drunkenly telling people on the gram, if I didn't ever do it, I would if I didn't go alone, I would never do it. You just have to take that leap. And I think investing that time and that energy in myself and exploring, I'm big into hiking, so I do that on a lot of my trips too. I think spending that time in nature and spending that time by myself, I think we all envision ourselves as the main character when we're driving on the road, and Taylor Swift or I don't know, Rage Against the Machine is on the radio, and you're just really getting into the music. I don't know, connecting with yourself in that way, investing that time, especially, I do live alone, so I get a lot of that, but a lot of people don't have that opportunity to really reflect. And I think it's hopefully made me a better person all around. We'll see. I think it's just given me confidence and given me a lot of perspective. So
I love that. That was a great answer. Everybody has very similar like answers in a sense, but they all word it differently and how it really reflects on them. So I love hearing all the different answers, and it's
have confidence too.
Absolutely. No, I really think that it rings true for like every person who's like who travels and they like love to see like it has changed them in some way, shape, or form. Like it has made them more confident. It has made them, more curious about the world. Like there's so many
because we see how other people live.
Absolutely. And I think that the more you see of the world, the more you become more well-rounded as a person, because you learn more about other people. Just like you said, when you travel and you're like, I wonder what they do here, like what their lifestyle is. Like, how would you ever have that thought if you didn't go there? Like you wouldn't. There's so many people that never leave their state, never leave their city, like, and that's all they ever know for their entire life. But they're like stuck in this bubble, and until you pop that bubble and see what's outside of it, there's so much.
Your worldview. Don't limit yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Don't limit yourself. Travel without a plane. I love it. Well, thank you, Bethany, for coming on. It was such a pleasure to have you. And thank you for, if you guys are just tuning in now, make sure you guys rewatch this live video. There was so many great tips and just a great conversation we had today. I do go live for you guys who are watching. I do go live every Tuesday with a new guest. And actually, the next 2 Tuesdays, I have like Vlogmas content coming up, but would love for you guys, if you guys ever want to reach out to me and have any questions for me, you can find me on Instagram at The Traveling Lucy, and also on my YouTube channel. Feel free to subscribe. Got plenty of content that comes out all the time and just trying to inspire people to travel. And I hope that you guys will come back for another Travel Tip Tuesday in the future with some of my other guests. And thank you again, Bethany, for coming on. It's always a pleasure to hear from other travelers and learn from their experiences. So thank you again, and happy Tuesday, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Happy Tuesday.
Bye.